I'm a longtime friend of the LTC. I think I've been going to IETC for close to 15 or 16 years now. That's kind of how I got connected with the LTC and all the people that work there, and have seen the LTC grow over time. But just a little bit about me. I took a job 2 days before school started this year and went out from the instructional coaching role back into the classroom to teach 7th and 8th grade STEM and computers in Effingham, Illinois, which is, about 90 miles east of St. Louis and about 120 miles west of Indianapolis is kind of where we're at on Interstate 70. But I'm really happy to share some background on cybersecurity. I've taken some coursework in it, and it at one time was going to pursue it as a full-time career. But different opportunities have came about to where I can utilize those things and still be able to teach those concepts to just teachers and students and anybody that wants to learn. So we're going to go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to start with this quote, and it says, "Companies spend millions of dollars on firewalls, encryption, and secure access devices, and it's money wasted. None of these measures address the weakest link in the security chain." So if there is a poll question that asks kind of what the weakest link is, or maybe I didn't put that one in there. I can't remember. But anyway, does anybody know what the weakest link of cybersecurity is? What is the thing that people exactly. People are, and then more specifically, weak passwords. Okay. You have the second factor I'm trying to think of the word, two-factor authentication with your phones and stuff like that, which is helpful, but still making and building a solid password is going to keep you the safest and keep your data the safest if you have that strong password. A lot of places you'll go to like local coffee shops or even school districts, which school districts are doing a lot better as they've expanded their technology and stuff. But for a long time, everybody stayed with the same router default or the same default passwords for the particular routers and Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. So I can go to the local coffee shop, and if I can find their IP address to their router, and they haven't changed the password, I can see every single device on their network, which is scary because I really don't have that much experience in cybersecurity other than a few courses I've taken. So it's always important that we try to eliminate the weakest link, which is people, but even more specifically the password. So if you have like home camera systems or stereo systems that operate on Bluetooth and you haven't changed your router password, people can get into those things pretty easily. Smart TVs. So it's always good that if you have a new router that you change that admin password. Usually it's admin. I mean, it's pretty simple to hack in, and then you can see all that stuff. So people definitely are the weakest link. So you can spend multitudes of millions and billions of dollars on cybersecurity, but if you don't have that password locked down, you're going to be pretty much out of luck, and people are going to be able to see your data, get into your systems. So when you hear the word cybersecurity, what do you think of? If anybody wants to throw some stuff up in the chat, or even just answer it in the poll question there that just popped up. For some reason it's not allowing me to type on it, but maybe. Oh, it says hosts and panelists can't vote. That would be why. Anybody have anything that they want to type or say that when you hear the word cybersecurity?
A lot of times, Jeremy, we do have a lot of people who will tune in on their drive home. So
gotcha. Okay.
If you're driving home, both hands on the wheel,
yes.
And you can pick this up later on. Okay.
Yeah, good to know. Okay. Well, it looks like somebody said being hacked. Remembering the password is the hard part. Yes, definitely. I'll go ahead and jump to the next slide here. The global cost of cyber crimes was $3 trillion in 2015. It jumped to 7 trillion in 2022. So if you do the math there, that's 7 years where it more than doubled. And then if you look at by 2025, you're looking at $10.5 trillion the cost of cyber crimes. That could be small hacks. It could be just huge data breaches, ransomware attacks. That's all included in that the $10.5 trillion dollar mark. So again, it's just it's something we need to care about. There have been school districts that have been hacked in Illinois, and it's cost them a lot of money, a lot of headaches, a lot of time down, lost student learning due to cyber crimes. So talking about this at the education level, I think it's very, very important that even teachers and students play a very important role in keeping student data, educational data, the school network secure. Because I know that don't think there's very many school districts that could afford a major ransomware attack. Oh, I just gave you the answer to this. What's the projected cost of global cyber crimes in 2022? Hopefully you're paying attention and everybody's going to put C, or they're going to say, oh yeah, it's $7 trillion. That was supposed to come before that slide. So sorry about that. I was really going to try to make it a little bit more interactive with my questions, but it'd help if I put the questions in the right place.
No worries, pal.
So what is cybersecurity? So I'm going to jump in and just talk about the background, some vocabulary that's familiar with cybersecurity, and then you're going to want to hang on. And if you're driving, continue to hang on, and then you can access some of these resources I'm going to share whenever you're done driving and when you can review this webinar. Because I am going to share a 10-day lesson plan. I'm going to share some other things, but I want to just get through some of this vocabulary and some background information before we go to that. So basically, according to CISA, cybersecurity is the art of protecting networks, devices, data from unauthorized access or criminal use, and the practicing of ensuring confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. So anytime that a system is hacked, there's usually data stolen. There is unauthorized access where people can see things that they shouldn't see within a hidden network, which basically is the data breach. Keeping those networks safe, those devices safe. Sometimes, whenever all this cybercrime, I mean, cybercrime has been around for a long time, but whenever I started studying it, I see it a lot more now, or I hear of it a lot more now that I've actually been studying it more. So it's real, it's a threat, everybody can do their part. In the United States, 769,736 jobs. I looked this up the other day from CyberSeek. Jobs in cybersecurity that are unfilled right now. So that's over 500,000 jobs in our market, in the United States that are anywhere from basic security network people to systems analysts, that kind of thing, cybersecurity analysts. Jobs open, and most of these jobs are anywhere in the range of $80,000 to $90,000 a year. So there's tons of jobs in this market, and that's part of where I want to take our discussion today. Is how can we adequately prepare kids and allow them to know that there's a huge market for them. Some of these jobs, they can work from home. They can have the flexibility of schedule. They can be sitting on the beach in Florida. They can, wherever they want to go, they would have that capability. So that's why it was really enticing for me for a while, because I would really love the beach of Florida like year round. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, because I love what I do, but I'm just not ready for that yet, I guess. So cybersecurity by the numbers, 95% of security breaches are caused by human error. And we've already discussed that, so I'm not going to continue to discuss that. 86% of data breaches are financially motivated. So they're going after money. They're more worried about, they want data, but they're more worried about getting their hands on money. So that's why you've seen an increase in the ransomware attacks. Info security and analyst jobs is one of the top 10 fastest growing careers for the next decade. And as we go into this this new kind of market, let me talk about malware first. Growth of malware infections, you can see has gone up from 2009. You had 12.4 million malware infections to again 812 million attacks, malware infections, basically in 2018, and that was the latest data that I could find on malware attacks. But you can see a gradual increase from 2009 on. So what happened in 2009? That's an interesting thing. That was the beginning, pretty much the beginning of social media. Facebook was around 2008 when I got my Facebook account, and I think it started growing from there. Again, I think there's been some education done on keeping things safe with Facebook and phishing, keeping phishing attacks at bay, but they're still happening. Then the malware enters the system, and then that's where it goes downhill after that. But what I was going to say just a second ago before this particular slide is that we're entering a new phase of the internet. And if you haven't heard of that yet, it's called Web 3. And Web 3 is based upon the blockchain, which is a whole nother webinar. So basically, we're going to see a shift in higher security, hopefully, with Web 3 than what we had in Web 1 and Web 2. And that is because it's based on the blockchain, and it's a peer-to-peer network versus a centralized server type of a thing where your data is stored. So we'll have to go into that another time, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little teaser of what's coming with Web 3 and the blockchain and cryptocurrency and all that stuff. They're relatively new right now, but it will invade into the education sector if it already hasn't. So the number of DDoS attacks, denial of service, whenever basically your servers are flooded, you can see it peaked in 2021 in December. December seems to be a pretty popular month due to Christmas and all the transactions. It's probably why you've got a higher amount there in 2021. And then June of 2022 seems to be creeping up there, and that might be due to summer possibly. My lights just went out, so I'm gonna have to go dance around real quick to get there they come back on. Those wonderful lights. So DDoS attacks, definitely a threat. We talked a lot already about the basic password and how we need to keep things safe, but I do want to go across or cover just a couple of the basics that typically people can easily do. Do not use your birthday. Don't use your name, your address, your anniversary, or any other personal type of information. You've probably seen on Facebook or social media, your favorite car. What was your favorite car when you were 16? What was the street that you lived on? What was blah, blah, blah? And people fill those out on Facebook. Well, it's intentional that they put those on there because hackers create those. And then they have all this data information that they can feed into these machines that basically they can come up with multiple passwords that you might use based upon what was popular for you or what you were interested in. So again, one of those little scary things that people probably think are harmless, but they can take that and they can use that and feed that into machines and algorithms to come up with the password for people's accounts. So they say to use two-factor authentication passphrases instead of just passwords. I'm guilty sometimes of this one, different passwords for each website, okay? Some of us use the same password for everything. That's not best practice, because if they get your password for one account, then they can get all the other accounts that you own. So it's always important that you don't have the same password for everything. Teachers are the worst with that. I will say that because I talk to teachers all the time, and they're like, "Well, I have the same password for everything." I'm like, "No, don't do that." So anyway, I'm guilty of that with a couple of my accounts that I use the same password, but I try to change it up. The longer password, the better the password. So again, the idea of passphrases. or what the experts are recommending. There are some password managers that you can use called 1Password or LastPass, and they can help you with getting the right. Basically, you would enter your passwords to all your accounts, and then you would use the LastPass password or the 1Password that you create with them, and it logs you into everything. So again, there are ways if you want to keep the same password for everything, you can use LastPass or 1Password, and then you have to use the password for 1Password or the LastPass program. If that makes any sense, hopefully. There is a link here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. It shows you whether or not your password is secure. So let's see here if I can do it. Tools being maintained at security. I don't know why it's not like, oh, I have to go to security.org now to get that. So I can enter a password. So if I do password 1, 2, 3, 4, it would take a computer 3 years to crack that password. I don't know about that. Password. Instantly, they can click password. If I do 400 milliseconds, if my password's my name, Jeremy. Let's see what else. Winter 2008. They can get that in a day. So again, it kind of gives you an idea on how strong your password is. Just something a little different, so you can see how secure your password is. Obviously, if you put in, if I use password and I use the little @ symbol for the A, and I use the Z for the S's, and then I put an exclamation point at the end, it's going to take 1 week to crack. So again, these algorithms are based in these passwords. Protection is super important. So I think I've kind of went over passwords enough there. I also put another link in here, just basic cybersecurity basics that you can reference at your own on your own time. Talks about updating your software, which is another thing that a lot of people fail to do. They'll get their iPhone update and they don't update it. They get their Microsoft update and they don't do it. Their Safari update. They update for a reason, people. They update for a reason, and that's usually because they found a security flaw. A lot of times they enhance things, but they're also covering security flaws and patches. It's always important, as much of a pain in the butt that it is to always update your whenever you get an update on your phone or on your computer. Okay, I'm going to talk about my cybersecurity unit now, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what administrators and what teachers can specifically do. So, like I said at the beginning, I was hired for this computers and STEM job 2 days before school started. So I was scrambling. I was trying to figure out what units I can teach, what units would be valuable to my students, and I've decided that cybersecurity is a pretty solid one that we need to begin covering. 7th and 8th grade, we do digital citizenship in the 6th grade. There are many different things that you can do. So there's a question there that just popped up. Do you teach or assist those who teach units on cybersecurity? It's a yes or no question. So I'll give a few moments if anybody wants to answer that question. But basically, the cybersecurity unit that I did is I always start with the basics of a vocabulary lesson, because I don't feel like kids can talk about or understand things without understanding the vocabulary behind it. So a lot of times I'll start my cybersecurity unit. Looks like we've got 2 people have answered the poll. We've got 1 that teaches or assists those, and 1 no, where it doesn't happen. So basically, with the cybersecurity unit, there are 12 cybersecurity tips for students. Basically, that I would go over with them. A national, the poll I think was just taken down. It popped on my screen for just a few seconds, but then it just disappeared. So Matt, I don't know if you can throw that back up there or not. But basically, these are just two websites that I would recommend going to as you're preparing to teach your cybersecurity unit. It also, there's the poll back for Nikki if you want to jump on and see that or respond to that poll. It just popped back up. But basically, the 12 cybersecurity tips is kind of how I formulated my lessons. And then once I'd done that, I kind of added some things to it and made it work for my particular class. So I'll take you through just the basic lesson plan that I've created. It is in a Google Doc, and it's got links to worksheets. It's got links to videos that I used. It's got a vocabulary Google form, everything you should be able to access or make a copy of for yourself. I wanted to make sure that this is something that teachers can use this material, use it, change it, whatever you want to do to make it fit you. But I've got worksheets loaded here, different videos. I'll just show you. This is just the basic vocab. It says I need access, so that's not good. That means you're not going to have access because I'm logged in with a different computer here. So I will have to I'll have to jump in and change the access on all this material before it's accessible to you. But basically a basic vocab Google form, like a vocabulary quiz type of thing. One of my favorite things and what I found that my 7th and 8th graders love was the threat maps, the cybersecurity threat maps, where you can actually see in real life what cyber attacks are happening. You can see what countries are sending them. You can see what type of attacks they are, but it's just a really, really cool site to actually do that. And there's links to multiple threat maps. This is from Threat Cloud. It talks about the number of attacks that are currently happening, what type of attacks they are. You can click on particular ones. And what my students, I said, what do you see or what do you recognize about where these attacks are generated from? And what would the United States be sending out? I had to be very clear with them and say, it's not the government necessarily that's sending these attacks out. It's people that are wanting to send these things to see what they can get. It's not necessarily the government. However, I will state that there are particular countries in the world that are notorious for cyber attacking, and we have to watch out for that. So you're seeing a lot coming out of California. You'll see a lot of attacks going into Washington State. There's a reason for that. We've got a lot of our social media companies in Silicon Valley, in Palo Alto, California, where that is constantly being targeted. And then you've got another big company in, well, actually two major companies. You've got Boeing Aerospace, and you've also got Microsoft in Seattle. So you'll see Seattle getting hit a lot as well. Right now, the top targeted country right now today is Mongolia, followed by Nepal, Indonesia, Taiwan, Vietnam are the ones that are getting the highest rate of attacks today. So far, 911 million attacks today. That could be just mild breaches. It could be failed attacks, but that's just a constant count going in. My kids couldn't believe that it was happening every second there was an attack. I'm like, there's multiple attacks per second. So just a nice little fun website to, again, ask your kids, why would California be targeted? Why would Washington State be targeted? And again, it turns into a geography lesson a lot of times because kids don't understand where certain places are on the map. So I used it to even pull in some geography and talk about that a little bit. The Internet of Things, that was like smart devices at your house. Anything that connects to the internet that isn't, well, even your computer and laptop and your phone are considered a thing or an Internet of Things. So it's always good to have that kind of stuff, again, locked down. Large scale cyber attacks, I have them read a little bit and watch some videos on cyber attacks. And then there's another like Google form assignment that I have them do. Again, I try to make it as hands-on, as realistic as possible, but I also want my 7th and 8th graders to be able to dive in and think for themselves and be able to decipher information on their own without it being teacher-led. research. So I allow them the opportunity to go in and do these particular assignments. What my students really liked are the cybersecurity simulations. And I think I put that on. Pull this down over here. Let me pull up another site real quick. Hope it'll go to where I want it to go. Let's see here. Nope, it's not going to let me. I'm logged into the wrong account. But I have a website that I set up that I will also share with Matt that will give you access to these a more clear cybersecurity simulation site that I have all of them laid out on. But there are a bunch of cybersecurity games that my kids played. Defend the Crown was one of them. There's just many different cybersecurity games that kids can play. They can simulate. They can defend against. Again, depending on what age level of kids that you have, they have them geared to the littles. They have them geared to the middle school kids, and then they also have them geared towards the high school. There are various different cybersecurity contests and games. Cyber Patriot games is what they call it, to where you can create a team and go and compete against other teams, defending networks and different things. So you can take it to big levels. This is just kind of entry level for middle school kids. Let me go back one more screen here to my. I wanted to touch on that lesson plan one more time. Go back. Oh, there it is. Here's my website. I thought I had it linked. So if I go to my simulations real quick here. Sorry about the scrolling, guys. I have a complete page here of cybersecurity challenges, games, and simulations that you can choose from. This one was the kids' favorite. It's called Interland, Be Internet Awesome. It's a mix of digital citizenship with cybersecurity. Kids absolutely love that one. The interface on that, the graphic interface, and just it kept the kids engaged for a couple days, which is hard to do at the 7th grade level. But I have this one's the Game of Life. Kids love that one. It's from Texas A&M. And then Hacktail was another one the kids loved. But Game of Threats. There's just so many different ones here that I included on the site. I'll throw that in the chat real quick, just so you can have access to my website that focuses specifically on cybersecurity. I do love what I've thrown together there with different simulations, and you'll also be able to access from that website all my content for the particular lessons as well. I want to touch just a little bit on digital citizenship. I know that cybersecurity, digital citizenship kind of go hand in hand, and it's basically trying to get our students to understand what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what responsibilities that come with having access to the internet. And a lot of them grew up with the device in their hand, and they don't know what's responsible behavior. And we have adults that don't understand what responsible behavior is on the cell phone. So that's why digital citizenship is so important and so needed in our school systems. And we are by law have to teach on digital citizenship. So again, it's very important. There the 9 themes, if you're not familiar with digital citizenship: digital access, commerce, communication and collaboration. Etiquette is huge. Digital fluency. This is a big one. And I've done a presentation on this in the past, and I kind of tabled it for a while. And I think it's about time to bring that one back, is digital health and welfare. We see a lot of students today that are struggling social and emotional wise. And some of that we can blame on the pandemic. some of that is just, I'm going to say it, Matt, poor parenting. And I'm guilty too. My kids are on their screens way too much, and some of that is a learned behavior even from parents, and I'm guilty of that as well. So again, some of those things that us as teachers, we have to take and put that into us and make sure our students understand what's responsible behavior. Digital law, digital rights and responsibility, security and privacy. Privacy issues are very important to also discuss within the digital citizenship realm. Another slide here that's got some, I was referencing cyber games or cyber quests. Those are, there's links to those here in the slideshow. I won't necessarily go into them for time's sake today, but there is a lot of different opportunities for students there. Let's look at the future job and career opportunities for students, because again, they're not going to know of these opportunities unless they're taught about these opportunities. So one of the culminating activity for my cybersecurity unit is cybersecurity's career posters or cybersecurity career presentations. So students can go out and see, okay, how much education do I have to be a cybersecurity analyst? What do I have to do just to be a basic programmer? What's necessary? And Google has made it very easy to different certifications that they have, to where kids could go take the Google certifications for data and things like that, and then they basically can utilize that particular endorsement from Google and get jobs. And they're good paying jobs. Like I said, anywhere from, $60, $70, $80,000 starting. Very solid careers. Again, I don't know anybody that straight out did that. That's just what I've been told and what I've researched when it comes to cybersecurity jobs. So by the year 2025, which is less than 2 years away, 2 years and 2 months away, there's going to be 1.5 million job openings in cybersecurity. That's worldwide. So that's a big number. A lot of jobs that aren't being filled, that need to be filled, because like I said earlier, we're transitioning from this Web 2 world to the Web 3 world, where understanding blockchain is going to be important. Understanding, again, just even the basics is going to be important as we transition into this new world and this new realm. So I put some slides together here. CompTIA, they are a certification group for cybersecurity. So I do want to really talk about, go to their site real quick. The top 9 jobs in cybersecurity. You can see the lowest paying job is a systems administrator at 80 grand a year, systems engineer at 90, and it kind of goes up from there. Software developer and engineer, again, depending on the company, 110 grand. Cybersecurity manager or administrator, 130 grand. So you're talking some serious cash there. Definitely appealing to me as I've studied this and have started my degree process with it, but kind of, like I said, backburnered that for a while just to kind of see what other opportunities there are within education before leaving it. And it's definitely been, a few trying years in education where there have been people leave the field to go and do cybersecurity in other areas. So the skills needed, and I go through this with my students and talk about, here are the degrees and majors that you need to look at whenever you're considering a career in cybersecurity. Machine learning, that's huge. Computer forensics, you've got cloud computing, and then your basic computer science, programming, database management, hardware engineer. Those are needed right now too, the hardware engineers. It's hard to find people that can work on the computers. There go my lights again. I'm gonna have to move. Sorry about that. But you can see that there's a lot of different majors there. The top skill needed, communication. If you're a good communicator, if you're analytical, a good problem solver, and you're detail oriented, that's what they're looking for. And those skills will trump your education, because they will pay you to learn, or you will learn on the job a lot of times, depending again the company. I mean, if it's a big, multi-billion-dollar company or even trillion-dollar company, obviously they're going to want somebody with that type of degree. But for the most part, Google is now hiring people that they put through their programs. So definitely communication, problem solving, detail oriented. Ingenuity, to be the ability to think outside the box, create and implement new strategies to be ahead of the attacker, which are, what they call white hat hackers, or the gray hat, that are kind of in the middle. And then they've got the ones, the black hat hackers, that are the ones that are trying to do the harm. So white hat hacking jobs are something that people are trying to get into. Tech skills, basically basics of IT, fundamental firewall networking experience, ethical hacking. I took a class in ethical hacking. I think it's scary that they teach it to freshmen in college. I think it's scary that high school kids can get dual credit classwork in ethical hacking, mainly because I don't think that the maturity level's there. But you do need to start them at a young age so that they're interested and engaged. But they could use what they learn in ethical hacking and can seriously do some damage to networks. So it's one of those things where you have to juggle whether or not it's worth the risk of starting to train kids in that whenever they're young. And I'm sure that there are age appropriate ethical hacking simulations and things like that, but they can take those what they learn in those simulations and bring those real world pretty easily. So just wanted to throw that out there. Adaptability is another great skill, being able to continually learn, be flexible, which we've all done in education the last few years. We've had to be flexible. We've had to adapt. Some of us learned extra tech skills. This during the pandemic was the first time I ever used dual screens, which is a huge blessing and a huge advantage to being able to teach webinars like this. I can have my two screens going, have my slides on one, I can see chat box in the other. So the adaptability and tech skills that came from that. Some other curriculum. This is some what I would consider boxed curriculum. Cyber.org has tons of material. They actually have cybersecurity learning standards, which I don't think Illinois has adopted the cybersecurity learning standards yet. I know we adopted the computer science, but I don't think we've done the cybersecurity learning standards yet, which I would expect that at some point. But a lot of them overlap would probably be, they're very similar to some of the computer science ones. We have networks and firewalls and things like that. Does anybody here have their computer science endorsement with the state? I'm currently working on mine, and I was thinking that the coursework that I had, some of that would transfer in, but I'm 3 classes short on mine, which surprises me with the networking classes and all that stuff. So I'm slowly getting that. I've got 3 years to get it now, because I'll be teaching the computer science stuff. I have a computer applications endorsement, but I'm working on that computer science one right now, and that's kind of why how I was hired was based on that computer science endorsement that I thought I had, but I still need coursework. So anyway, that I kind of sidebarred there for a second, but the cyber learning standards I think are coming. CodeHS. I use CodeHS a lot. I really like their cybersecurity layout for their course. They have a lot of videos you can watch. They have anything from AP cybersecurity to fundamentals, advanced. There are tons of different cybersecurity courses on CodeHS. And CodeHS, they have a free version and they have a paid version. I've been content with their free version. So it's Code HS. I'll throw that one in the chat as well. It is in the slideshow too. I really enjoy the material on there. Again, depending on how long you want to spend, here's 135 contact hours for a high school class. So depending on how much time you want to use, or if you want to just take bits and pieces, with like I have, the content is pretty solid, I think. The National Initiative for Cybersecurity, that's specifically focused on the career portion of cybersecurity. And then I always throw a shout out to Kyla at Bits and Bytes, because her curriculum is fantastic as well. There's a fundamentals package, there's a disinformation curriculum, and then there's a cyber sleuth video series that she's done. Those are all paid, but I really like her Bits and Bytes curriculum from what I've seen of it. A couple other curriculum ideas. I always reference this list from Tech and Learning, has what they term the best cybersecurity lessons and activities. And it gives you, like, there's Code HS, code.org has some stuff. But again, that link could be very valuable to you as well. So that is in the slideshow. And then the computer science framework is also linked there. So I know some people probably are driving. So here's kind of another open-ended question. What resources have you found to teach cybersecurity in your classroom? And I know that there was at least one person that said that they teach or work with somebody that teaches in cybersecurity. But I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to get new things for my students. So if there's anything that you use and you don't feel like typing here or whatever, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at Rinkel Jeremy is where I'm at on Twitter. And I just always like to build onto my particular arsenal of activities. So what do teachers and administrators need to know? There's a cybersecurity framework, or let's just pause for questions here, because this is more geared towards like tech, more towards like technical, what am I wanting to say? IT people. This next portion is specifically more for IT people, which there might be some here on the call, and I want to cover that. But maybe now would be a good time to pause for questions, Matt, and see if there's any questions that that pop up.
Sounds good. I've opened up mics, so you can hit that mute button or that microphone button to unmute yourself, or you can type things into the chat. Either way.
I see that Nikki put she taught kindergarten and wanted to use the mouse and stay on the website. Yes. Whenever I was instructional coaching, I was working with K through 2 sometimes, and it's just amazing. Bless those that work with the young people, because they trying to get them logged in can sometimes take 20 minutes. So definitely, I feel you there. I must be doing well. No questions yet, Matt.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me.
All right, I'll go ahead and move on and kind of cover some of this more IT, more administrative level stuff. There's a curriculum framework or a cybersecurity framework called NIST, or it's from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and basically looks at standards, guidelines, and practices to manage and reduce the cybersecurity risk. So there are basically 3 components to the framework. There's the framework core, the implementation tiers, and then the profiles. And that, well, again, it's more of a risk management type of thing. Where does your district sit? Are there things where our implementation should be better than what it is? So the framework core looks at 5 different things: the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Hopefully you're not ever in the respond and recover mode. Although people do get there, and districts get there, and companies get there, to where they're responding to an attack. They're mitigating an attack. They are recovery planning, trying to get their data back, get their systems up and running. So, so anyway, the respond and recover, we want to try to get out of responding and be more proactive in the identifying the business environment, the risk assessment, the strategies, awareness and training, which is huge, which is often in education. There's so many moving balls that we have to juggle all the time. So sometimes maybe this awareness and training falls by the wayside, or keeping your data secure. I know teachers that post their passwords on their walls, and it's like, no, don't do that, because it's accessible to the student. And then once it's accessible to the student, there may be somebody that comes to visit, the school playing basketball, and the door's unlocked, and then they can come in and they can look at your wall and your passwords. Not saying that happens, but I mean, that's just the fear that I have. If there's a password on the wall, if there's a basketball tournament going on and somebody left your door unlocked, that's exposed passwords. So that's, again, people are the weakest link. There are 23 categories within these 5 functions. Again, you can see those and read those for yourself later, but I just wanted to bring up the framework core. And then the implementation tiers. So are you partially prepared? Are you risk informed? Are you repeatable? Are you adaptive? Okay. The tiers describe the degree in which your organization's risk management practices are defined in the framework. This doesn't necessarily represent maturity level. So if you're tier 1, it doesn't mean that we're way far off from where we need to be. It just means that you may not be completely prepared. Profiles, they look at cybersecurity framework to best serve the organization. So you create a profile, for instance, maybe it's a teacher profile or it's a student profile, and it allows the district or the organization to put into place a implementation plan, whether that's education or whether that's a mitigation plan. Okay, our system was hacked. You need to go in and change all your passwords to whatever you've ever logged into this computer that you can think of. That would be part of an implementation or a response plan. It also is a unique alignment of the requirements, the objectives, the risk, and basically the desired outcomes of your cybersecurity plan, which there are companies out there that will help you as a district write a cybersecurity plan. However, there are a lot of people like myself that will just share our knowledge, what we know, and connect people to people that don't charge a couple $100,000 to write your plan. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, but it is a very, very serious thing to consider, to make sure that you are not the weakest link in the network system. And again, going back to the very beginning, and I'm circling back to the beginning, is that safe and secure password, that passphrase. So that kind of ends my slideshow, Matt. Any comments, questions, anything you want to share?
Nikki mentions getting in-house training is hard. Many of the teachers use the same passwords. Yes, they do. There's a lot that we can change just with passwords. It is also hard to keep passwords safe when substitutes need access to websites. Thank you so much. Jeremy, any ideas about that substitute issue?
What a lot of districts do, they will create profiles for their substitute teachers. If they're like my particular district now, we have a lot of the same substitute teachers, so we've actually created them user accounts to at least take roll and that kind of stuff. But they lock down the student information system to where they can only take attendance, or they can post lunch count. So a lot of times they'll create a special profile. Sometimes they just create one profile. Whenever I used to substitute teach, I remember going into buildings and they'll say, okay, here's your login is sub and your password sub. So then you could access pretty much what you needed with those particular passwords. On the in-house training thing, I don't have answers on that. it's just really hard to, without sounding negative, some people don't want to learn. They don't want to take the time to learn or the time to change the passwords. They don't want to take the time to change from the default password to create their own password. So I don't have an answer for the in-house training part, but for the substitutes, I would recommend setting up a profile for a particular substitute, or just doing a blanket sub account, and then don't use sub as the password. That would be my recommendation there.
Good point. As far as in-house training goes, I'll do a shameless plug. And Jeremy knows where I'm going with this probably. My colleagues and I at the LTC have worked with the folks at the Illinois Principals Association. You may know the Ed Leaders Network. We have a free course hosted on Ed Leaders Network that schools can enroll their faculty in and take that online cybersecurity training course. You do want to reach out to IPA. If your school doesn't already use Ed Leaders Network, reach out to get your staff uploaded into that. There's a pathway for educators and a pathway for administrators as well.
Definitely, and I will add to that also, saying you do get mediation for that as well.